Welcome to another video by Pharos Technology. Today I want to discuss, especially to all of you who may be self-taught in Access or Excel, want to talk about the 5 critical skills that you need to know. I'm going to go under the hood here and maybe you'll catch 1 or 2 of them that you've never seen before just because you haven't known where to look. So let's get started. Here I have a spreadsheet that's very wide. It, goes on forever over to the right. Well, I need to be able to see most of that on my screen at the same time. So I can squeeze down my columns here and I can work with that. I can also, use the zoom down below as I did. I put it on 80% and I could keep working on getting it smaller and smaller. Well, let's move on to the next tip. It says keeping those titles at the top and side of your screen. Well, by doing that, you can be able to see those titles even when you're scrolling way to the bottom, because a lot of times, oh, what's that column about? Okay, let's go ahead and go up to a thing called freeze panes under the view menu. One of the entries out of the 3 is freezing just the top row. Well, let's take a look at that one. Now, if I scroll down, those headings stay at the very top of my screen. Now, I can also freeze panes. I'm going to unfreeze them first. I can also freeze panes, the first column, or when I just click freeze panes, it freezes the panes around my cursor. Everything to the left of my cursor stays frozen. Everything above my cursor stays frozen. So here I've gotten multiple frozen areas, 2 columns, and also the titles at the top of the screen. All right, so let's talk about managing your columns and your rows. Many times you need to have the flexibility to remove columns, to add columns, and to change the column width and to change the row height. Let's take a look at how you do those. I'm going to go ahead and hide a column, clear out there. By doing so, I get much more real estate on the screen. If I want to go delete several rows, I can just hit delete here. And notice it'll scroll up here in a second. There you go. And so I'm going to undo that. I could also do the same with multiple columns. So I can unhide that column and I can decide to delete that particular column. Right click and hit delete and away that column goes. Now let's look into how we can increase the row heights here. Let's just change it to 25. And by highlighting in that top left button that highlights the entire spreadsheet, I can change the entire spreadsheet all at once. If I highlight just a certain number of rows, I can right click and go to row height and change that to 25. And you'll notice that just the rows that I've highlighted have changed height. Okay. And I'll undo that. I can also do the same with columns. Let's say I want my author first and author full name to have the same column width. I can then go to the column width, change it to, let's say, 45, click OK. Now both of those are exactly 45. Now that helps a lot sometimes when you want to conform your spreadsheet and make your numbers columns all the same width. It helps to do that. Now, what if I want to delete several cells? If I hit delete here, it's going to ask me what to do about the rows and columns beside and above it. In this case, let's shift the row columns to the left. And when I click OK, you'll notice everything shifts to the left. Kind of looks like a little bit odd. Maybe I don't want to do that. But let's go ahead and go delete again. Let's shift cells up. And now it shifts the starting row 11, shifts it up. And now the data is out of sync with the stuff on the right. So now you need to be careful when you're using this to make sure that you either select the entire row or the entire column, or make sure that the block that you really want to delete is actually what you want to delete. So that's how to manage your rows and your columns. So let's move on. And I've got a demo here about multiple windows. Multiple windows can be excellent when you need to look at data on different tabs, for example. And I'm focusing on the window applet here. And I'm going to first click on New Window. And in doing that, what you'll notice is the titles will each have numbers afterwards. And so if this particular window were expanded, you'd see a number 2 at the end of that, just like you see the number 1 at the one that's under it. Now if I click Arrange and I click Vertical, this is the vertical setting, and lets me see 2 things here. Now, if I hit multiple windows and hit synchronous scrolling, it allows the 2 to scroll at the same rate, which is kind of nice. If I turn it off, I can scroll in one pane versus scrolling in another pane. And you probably want to set that like that when you have 2 different tabs in there, although you could put synchronous scrolling on and scroll 2 different tabs at the same rate. So let's look at what horizontal looks like. This one doesn't look quite as effective. So if I put synchronous scrolling here, it works the same as it did with the vertical panes. And I could get rid of the ribbon in the bottom one, let's say, so that I could have a little bit more real estate on the screen. And now let's show you what happens when you split the screen. If you use split screen, it can be useful. And notice it gives you 4 different panes. Wherever your cursor is placed, it'll give you those 4 panes. And wherever you put your cursor in as the active pane, you can scroll up and down. Now, you might scroll off the screen in another tab, like we're going to scroll down and you see the bottom one lost the cursor below the screen, and that will happen. If I continued to scroll up, that cursor would come back. And so, they'll scroll back and forth. If you scrolled right and left in a particular pane, the pane below it or above it would scroll along with it. So let's unfreeze that pane and let's go look at one other example of a split pane. I'm going to make a split and just put it here in the center. Now that cursor is 4-arrowed cursor, and once I put it in the center intersection of those panes, I can move that pane to wherever I want it. So here I've basically duplicated freeze panes in the respect that I've held the titles up above it and I've held a column off to the left of it. But the nice thing about splits is it's much more flexible than freeze panes in the respect I don't have to go back up to a menu and click multiple items to undo this and redo that and so forth and so on. It's much more quick and easy with split panes. Okay, so now let's say I want to hide some sensitive information. Let's say backup data is a tab that has critical data on that I don't want users to be playing with. I can right click and click on hide. And when I hide that tab, it goes away from prying eyes. Now, it's easy to put back a hidden tab. You right click and click unhide and it'll give you a list. You can password protect that. I'll talk about password protection in later videos, but you can easily password protect that so that they at least have to call you to get the password before they can unhide a tab, and you can kind of talk about how important it is and what can or cannot be changed in the spreadsheet if you're doing it for a particular customer. So if you got some good information out of this, I hope you'd hit that like button for me and get this out to other viewers. At the same time, if you'd like to get more information about Excel or Access or even Word, hit that subscribe button, because there'll be a lot more videos coming that are just like this, full of information and packed with good stuff. Hopefully we'll see you again later. Thanks.